Well, when we talk about inclusive growth in India, we automatically think of the potential of the growing digital economy. Now, with the world's second highest number of internet users, a huge market exists for customized digital content services in the country. Apps and platforms built for Bharat have actually taken on the task of bringing those services to vast audiences, making their way online. Beyond bringing their preferences and cultural identities into the digital mainstream, these apps and platforms also are opening up new ways to engage the rapidly increasing number of internet users across Bharat. Mind you, I said Bharat, not India, and create new experiences with the potential to enrich lives and empower communities. The question is how innovators and entrepreneurs can optimize the growth potential of these apps beyond metros, go into Bharat, while driving the right socio-economic impacts that encourage awareness, aspiration, and accessibility. I'm not the one who's answering that because fortunately we have with us a panel of pioneers and experts to understand all that and a lot more. So this is a special episode of Seed to Scale and CNBC TV18 presenting Decoding Bharat. Over the next half hour, our esteemed panel of guests will discuss how emerging Bharat platforms driving social engagement can actually change the digital horizons of consumers in Bharat and create a more empowered digital class. So let's welcome all those who are joining me on the discussion. We have Rohit Chaudhary, who's the founder of Seeko, joining us virtually. Vinay Singhal, co-founder of Stage, which is basically OTT for Bharat. And Prashant Sanchan, who is the founder and CEO Apps for Bharat. Both of them with me in the studio. Sarthak Singh, investor Accel, also joining in virtually. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining in. We do know of the potential of this market itself and the need for something like this because India is such a diverse country. The question is this making a good business case? So let's go across to Sarthak first and ask him. Sarthak, as an investor, do you think emerging Bharat platforms offer reliable and scalable enough revenue streams for them to be good investment bets? I mean, what are your thoughts here?
We always thought that there is a very strong demand pull for both paid and unpaid apps and platforms for Bharat. You could say dating apps for Bharat, everyone needed it. It did not exist. Affordable education and productive content like what Seeko is doing, that was needed, didn't exist. Content-led community for elders, what Prashant is building, visiting devotional places through tech, through online. These are things that everyone wanted. I think significant portion of people also are willing to pay for it. But the ecosystem had seen very less founders take a crack at it. Last couple of years, we have seen a lot of people come in and not just, I would say they have just cracked monetization. They are giving some of these larger companies run for their money. And one additional thing that we keep going back to in content is people said, hey, do these people really want anything outside of Instagram and bunch of other stuff that is already there? And in that, we strongly believe, what Henry Ford had to say, that if you had to ask people what they wanted, they would have just said faster horses. So most of these platforms that you will hear today about, be it Apps for Bharat, be it Seeko, be it Stage, you would, a couple of years back, you would say, is this even needed? And look at what they are doing today. So we are pretty bullish on it. We are continuously evaluating companies, meeting companies, and as you know, we are spending a lot of time figuring out which is that company, what is the right stage for us to come in. But there is a whole dedicated bandwidth, not just at Accel, but across all VC funds who are on the lookout for which is the next large company. And we are pretty bullish. There will be not one, but bunch of them coming up.
You've set the tone here, but the questions again are to the founders. Prashant, what's interesting is that the kind of panel that we have here, one person solves for all the education needs. It's a subscriber only model. The other person has specific content for Bharat, which a lot of people earlier thought that do we even require that? Yeah. And then you're totally, delving into a different market. So it's a good mix. Let's start with you. I mean, what prompted you to start a business like this? How did you calculate the market? How did this idea come by? And how's the journey been so far?
Sure. As everything is moving online, it was about time that people should get access to information, services around devotion through a very well thought through good tech platform.
Yeah.
And we thought this is a clear need that we should go and solve for. And that's when we said, let's just see what we can do for people here. What we realized were people were hungry because this information was scattered. Now a devotee would go to a temple once in many years, once in a lifetime. They would want to connect to those temples every once in a while, every week, every month. We said this is a beautiful opportunity where we can solve for access and convenience. Now just to help you understand this, right? During Diwali, Ganesh Chaturthi, everyone in the country prays. So if I were to think about this, right, what's the TAM? Everyone. Two, just to give you a small data point, right, roughly 200 million people make an offering in their home shrine or a shrine near to their home, and they do that as a daily blessing marker. So 200 million people would be spending 30 to 50 rupees every single day as a blessing marker to get blessings from their deities and gods and whatnot. And just to give a very small example, right, if you think of the SMEs and MSME universe in India, right, 60-70 million of them, if you go to any shop in India, you'll see a small shrine and people would offer a coconut or a basket of flowers and whatnot. They'll start their day with that. Now, if I were to do this bottom-up analysis, I think people are spending, people are connecting, people are engaging. If you can give them a trusted platform, this behavior will move online. So it's a market creation, market expansion opportunity. And if you go with the right mind, right bent, solve for trust, solve for these value systems, provide access and convenience, you can create a large outcome.
You know, we'll talk about the way you go about your business. How do you solve for trust, and obviously get some numbers out of you as well.
Sure.
But let's take that point forward with you. I mean, there are a lot of regional players or regional content players in the country. What differentiates your platform, and why this need for regional content which is made by the regions? I'm just trying to figure out what was your aha moment that this is something which is which is needed.
I grew up in Haryana, a very small village in Haryana, roughly 200 kilometers north of here, and 100 odd houses. I grew up speaking Haryanvi, and there was no app which was doing Haryanvi content at all, right? We double clicked on that, found that there is no content itself in Haryanvi, so how will an app put up Haryanvi content, right? And double clicking further led to the fact that Haryanvi is a dialect and not a language.
Right.
Dialects don't have their own script, so there is no literature, and so there is no cinema as well. We started to look, is it a Haryana only problem? We started to look beyond that. You go to Rajasthan, people speak Rajasthani, Marwadi, etc.
Yeah.
You go to UP, people speak Braj, Bundeli, Avdhi, Bhojpuri. Bihar speaks Bhojpuri, Maithili, Maghai.
Basically, every 80 kilometers, the language, dialect, food, everything.
Absolutely, right? So the thesis for us started to evolve in the direction that in India, there are so many of these dialects across the country which just are large enough but don't have any content at all in them. So over time, what became the lowest common denominator among all of this was that it is not about the dialect or language, it is about the culture that these belong to. And each of these cultures are large enough that they can become an independent market on their own, right? So in a very similar manner that I am an Indian, it's my national identity, I'm a Hindu, it's my religious identity, I am a Haryanvi and it's my cultural identity. But unfortunately, because of a lot of colonial baggage and the one nation, one language sort of an agenda after independence especially, what happened was that we ended up like growing up so many generations with the feeling that कि अगर आप पढ़े लिखे हो तो हिंदी में या अंग्रेजी में बात करोगे, if you speak in Haryanvi or either आप अनपढ़ गंवार गाँव के, and all those things, all those notions were associated with it, and we ended up creating huge set of inferiority complex generations essentially. Absolutely. Right? And all of a sudden now when you provide them content in their dialects, in their languages and cultures, the entire inferiority complex goes away and people derive a huge amount of cultural identity validation and celebration out of the content that they can consume. Right. In a way, we believe that at stage we are building the confidence layer of this country.
So let's bring Rohit into this conversation as well. At a base level, you understand the need for something like Seekho. But what also is counterintuitive is that you started as a subscription-only model, and that is, something that one could not immediately, maybe identify with being an Indian, where you would not necessarily want to pay for content. How did you go about that? And do you have an example that debunks that myth?
For a very long time, it was considered that Indians are, not going to pay. But for the last 3 to 4 years, it has become pretty evident that people are going to pay if they find meaning, if they find value. One thing that really came out while when we started building Seekho was that people are super ambitious, super aspirational, and they're looking for content which can actually help them grow, help them succeed. But it just didn't exist because no one ever thought that Bharat wants that content. But when we launched with a very scrappy kind of a version of our app and realized that the first few customers only came because हमको हमारा time waste नहीं करना है and we want to consume content which can help us succeed. That in itself was made it very clear that it's a need which is not just to an extent that people will consume content but will also pay for, and that is how like we were actually able to become one of the first few content platforms to be able to charge users in Bharat.
In hindsight, it seems so perfect because if you look at a lot of the books that are sold in regional languages, the kind of self-help book or business management sort of books that sell, you would realize that maybe there is this latent need for Bharat to learn and not waste their time when they are paying for something. That's great insight out here. But now what we're trying to understand is that how do you solve for problems for Bharat? Is it any different from what you do for the top 10 cities, the top 8 cities that we're talking about? How is India different from Bharat when it comes to doing business with or creating products or services for? Go ahead.
Absolutely. So I think in our case, the app I'm building is called Shri Mandir.
Yes.
Now, when you think about devotion, right, whether the person is rich or absolutely poor, if he believes, we realize that people have very simple, specific needs when it comes to devotion, and especially this audience that I'm going after. Now, what are these needs of people? When people start their day, they would want to bow down to their deity and say, God bless me, may my day be well. Now, if they have more time, they would engage with more information. Now, if they're feeling special on that day, they would want to make an offering. They would make that offering in their home shrine, or if that day is special enough, they would allocate some money and say, when I will go to this temple in Haridwar, I would offer a chunri in my family's name. Or if it is a Amvasya or a Pitr Paksh, they would want to get a puja done in their family's name and whatnot. So these are the bunch of needs that people have. So this app Shri Mandir solves for these three things specifically. People come, open the app, do the darshan. Now it's Tuesday. I feel disconnect. I would want to make an offering at Hanuman Gadi Mandir in Ayodhya. You would offer a basket of flowers at the cost which is similar to the cost that you pay outside that particular.
Typically 5100.
Yes. And what you get back, what we solved for was people wanted to hear their name and gotra. So what happens is we have built systems and processes. When you make an offering through Shri Mandir, the temple partners that we have will go there, make an offering, take your name, send you the video back. Now that gratification is crazy. People come back to us and say that, hey, we have been wanting to go here for many, many years now. Thank you so much for enabling that. Now, see, the point being, when you're solving for these users, you have to identify what their simplistic needs are and create simple enough interfaces and UX, as we call it, to be able to matchmake. And that's what we did, I would say.
Since you spoke about the interface and all of that, I wanted your thoughts, because now everyone's used to, in the metros, the Netflixes, the Amazons and the Hotstars of the world, where the interface speaks a certain language. Do you have to make specific changes to cater to audiences outside of metros? And also, when you do that, you have to also keep in mind some of the tools like voice recognition or language changes, etc., so that it makes it relatively easier for people to access your content?
So first of all, this India and Bharat definitions are extremely flawed.
Got it.
And a lot of people have very different definitions of it, and everybody assumes that cities, top 10 cities don't have Bharat in them, and the cities outside top 10 don't have India in them, right?
Yes.
So for the longest time, everybody thought that what we were building is also a gaon ka product, a rural product, right? Whereas out of all the subscribers that we have, 30% of them come from Delhi alone, not even NCR.
Wow.
Delhi alone, right? And how do we reconcile that? Let's take a Tamil example, for example, right? The biggest businessman in Tamil, one of the names that, since we are talking about startups, let's say Zoho founder, Mr. Vembu, right?
Yes.
And then there is some auto driver in Chennai. Everybody in between, the entire spectrum of socio-economic strata, who speaks Tamil, belongs to the Tamil culture, they consume Tamil content. They may not watch the same Tamil content, but they watch something in Tamil for sure, simply because they belong to the culture, it's their identity, and they need to watch Tamil content to drive validation and reinforcement and celebration of that identity, right?
So, you're basically consolidating cultures and not necessarily geography.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this entire notion about that Bharat doesn't have paying capacity or doesn't want to pay, and Bharat is only in villages and outside cities, I think is something that needs to be challenged in a very, very big way. And what Prashant and I are doing are exactly the same. Yeah, please.
I think we said right interface part. I think yes, because what happens is the tech-savvy user is very used to certain prompts and iconography and whatnot. Whereas when it comes to people who are low tech-savvy or have just come on the internet, might not respond to the same way. So of course, you have to be very, very mindful. I'll give you a small example. Let's say we have this streaming service on the app where people can listen to audio. What we realized was when you go on any music streaming service, right, you have this icon where there are these rounded arrows. Now for you it is intuitive that you will realize that I'll play it once when you click that, right? But I have to do more work to be able to ensure that my user who might be sitting in a small town would not understand that. To have to add another layer of explanation on top of it so that he would get it. So the challenge, particularly on the Provide side, is more complicated because you have to solve for this user who takes these icons in a very intuitive way, and also there will be one more person who might not get it. So that makes the problem statement really exciting for that matter.
All right, what we'll do is we'll actually take a short break, come back, discuss a lot more in detail, the opportunities, the challenges, the pitfalls to avoid after this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching us here on CNBC TV 18 Seed to Scale Decoding Bharat, a series where we speak about emerging trends beyond metros, talk about Bharat and a lot of platforms that may help discover that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or the bottom of the pyramid, as they say. We've been discussing the content strategy for Bharat. Let's talk about a little more now. We go across to Rohit. So Rohit, we were talking about how people have to differ their offerings, specialize their offerings, especially for the consumers that they're catering to. I wanted your thoughts on one, how do you use data to actually decide what is the next kind of content that you're going to put out? And secondly, what have been some of the things that you've deployed to ensure that your content is more accessible to the user base that you're catering to?
Sure. So the strategy that we have figured out to figure out the next content, in fact, to grow the business, is basically that user comes for one particular use case, be it linking their Aadhaar card with their PAN, or maybe start growing on their YouTube channel, or how to maybe grow their business using a website and so on. And once they are on a platform, because it's an all-in-one subscription, they cross over across categories to consume a lot of educational content around growing on social media, growing on business, or even improving their health or improving their personal finance and so on. And what really helps is that there is already a lot of content on the internet, which gives us really good signals around what India is consuming. We just have to understand those signals, maybe what's getting really popular on YouTube or on Instagram or maybe on LinkedIn, and launch it as a category. Start getting users for that categories, launch some really good, crisp, short, high quality content in those categories. And post that, just ensure that we are, giving those users a really good experience in those categories, and then also as a whole package across categories. So that's basically the whole strategy. And of course, the recommendations play a really important role there. Generating content through AI and also to recommend the right content using the AI and ML models is extremely important, because users don't really come here for achieving a single outcome, but what they come here for is improving their lives in general. And the responsibility lies on us to not just empower them, but also to inspire them to take actions which can help them improve their lives.
Let's go across to Sarthak. Sarthak, I asked you the first question about what the business opportunity is here, but let's give you the last word here as well. What, according to you, is the end game out here? Because we are consolidating cultures, we are getting a set of audience, we are providing a certain service. How much bigger can they go from here? Can they go beyond the initial identity that these companies started out with? I mean, like we ask a lot of these D2C companies as well, what exactly is the end game? You become big enough to go outside of the core category, or become good enough for others to come ahead and acquire you. So how would you look at it?
I think personally, I look towards Chinese startups and what they have been able to do. So in my head, whatever Shant is doing or whatever Stage is doing, this is just the beginning of what they can scratch. I'll just take an example of the largest e-commerce company that you look at today. Most of their revenue that hits the bottom line is advertisement revenue. So the other myth that people have been able to break is that India is not going to generate even enough revenue from advertisement. We have now started to see, so all of these platforms will definitely see a bump up in their top line coming from that angle. And if you are talking about expanding to different categories, once the footfall or once the traction is in place, I think each of these platforms, I get very excited thinking what all could Apps for Bharat really do. It just starts from helping these people go to these temples, and then it can have full-fledged offline play. It could probably have full-fledged international play, and that goes true for all of these platforms. So in our head, when we are also thinking of TAM, we are saying the Act 2, Act 3 of these businesses could be significantly or as huge as what they are doing today, if they are able to crack the core piece that they are trying to do. So, and I would recommend all the content startup founders to look towards China and see what China has been able to do just with the content first companies.
All right, that is interesting insight, but more importantly, great advice as well for all these guys to go ahead and grow too. With that, I'll have to thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this discussion and sharing your valuable insights. I definitely go a lot richer listening to you guys from here, and we wrap up on this show. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day from all of us here at Decoding Bharat.